Chatting with me this morning. Let's talk about the dollar. Obviously, the dollar selling is continuing. Do you see this bearish sentiment to continue through the year end? Where do you see DXY by the end of this year?
Yeah, I think we are in a bit of a sweet spot going, with a bit of a Goldilocks going on in the market. Globally, inflation is easing. We have global growth that is moderate, not hot, not cold, and the US appears to be heading towards a soft landing. Easing cycle has already begun in most DM nations. That includes the ECB, the BOE, and so on and so forth. Fed has already signaled, and we are certainly getting closer to getting the Fed's easing cycle started. So on that note, there is room for some of these high beta currencies, including Asian currencies, to claw back its earlier losses from the year and continue to appreciate. And on that note, I think the dollar can continue to trade on the back foot.
Do you have a number for DXY?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at somewhere very key at the 100.6 level. But if we do get a decent breakout of those levels, then potentially we could see a bit more to go on the downside. But pretty much, I think tonight's Powell's speech at Jackson Hole will be closely scrutinized.
What about the dollar yen? Do you think the yen has strengthened a little too much, too fast for traders?
Well, not really. If we look at Wither's comments this morning, I think it kind of reinforced the view that the BOJ policy normalization has more room to go. And I think in terms of rate hikes, it could still continue so long growth, inflation, and wages in Japan continue to go. So I think pretty much the broader direction of travel for dollar yen has now changed, given that the Fed BOJ policy has moved on from divergence to convergence. So this is something that I think the correlation will have to be playing a little bit more catch up. So I think on the downside, we could potentially even be looking at 136 if the correlation plays out between dollar yen and where the treasury yield differentials are.
All right, 136. What about the RMB? Because we've got that going for 713.88 at the moment. A lot of pressure has been taken off the Chinese yuan. I mean, this is obviously the dynamics that we were just talking about, the yen strength and the dollar weakness. But the authorities in China may not want this upside to happen too quickly. Where do you see?
You're right. The soft dollar environment has resulted in very modest renminbi gains. So if you look at the currency change versus the dollar, the renminbi gained the least versus the regional currencies like even the Thai baht, the Philippine peso, Malaysia ringgit, for instance. And on that note, right, if you look at it from an index perspective, the renminbi is even depreciating against other currencies, except perhaps for the dollar. So if you look at the FIX itself, the recent fixing pattern has also seemed to suggest that the magnitude of adjustment is actually not quite in tandem with the broad dollar decline. So from multiple angles, the fixing action is telling you that policymakers may still be pursuing a bit of a measured pace of renminbi depreciation, but the calibration has now been tilted towards other FX within the CFET's basket.